This is Still Holds Up, and I am CouchCube, and we're looking at Assassin's Creed Origins. We've got a lot to cover here. There was an update that came out on the 22nd of May last year for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox One. The update for the PlayStation 5 side of things doesn't mention any resolution boosts. It's only locked 60 frames per second. This game came out in 2017. This is a 1080 capture, but at no point in the game do you think it's running at 1080. Excellent super sampling happening here on a tiling basis. You just see no granular detail anywhere, not in distance, not in the outside of the screen edge or areas that you're not focusing on. The only giveaway is the fire. We'll get to that later. Everything else just looks almost current gen. Here's the kick in the nads. This is how it unfolded for me. I'm standing in CEX, which is a UK-based video games exchange shop, and I'm feeling chuffed that I'm putting this video together. I've just done the trailer. I've got the Bangles tune in the back of my head, and in the corner of my goddamn eye, I can see on the shelf a 4K HDR remastered Xbox physical copy of this game. So the people over on the Microsoft side got an actual official rollout for it. I was so angry. That keeps happening. We got a bad deal with Alien Isolation on the PlayStation 5. And also on Fallout 4, with that only going to 2K over on the PlayStation 5 side. But enough moaning, and let's have a look at the beauty. Having smooth frame rates on open world games changes everything, especially if it's a crisp 60 frames. It gives everything this whole grounded feel and look. This trickles into all the smoke and sort of weather effects, sand and sunlight. Having the rotation of the camera itself be smooth as butter all the time just gives you more confidence in combat and makes you feel so much more immersed. We will have that debate towards the end of the video. The new Zelda and the Switch is causing quite a lot of debate over on Twitter, so I want to discuss a few things.
There you are! Should have played your strengths in a eunuch.
I think I just got called a eunuch by the NPC there. I don't think that's even allowed anymore. Why have I chosen Origins for It Still Holds Up when there's so many Assassin's Creed and a brand new one? Well, I've played Odyssey and Valhalla extensively, and I don't really have a burning urge to go back to them. This is very different, however, and I think one of the most violent and blood-soaked Assassin's Creed for a long time. It's an 18 on the cover, and it doesn't hold back on a lot of the macabre.
And here is your nobody!
I want to talk briefly of the evolution with the Assassin's Creed games. I was very much there for one, and I was very knocked back at the marketing material, the cutscenes, the deep lore and religious aspects to it. It was a game that just blew us all away on its initial release, and the second one also. Back then, the controls were very face button focused. You'd be using triangles and circles for your different melee attacks, and there wasn't really much shoulder button work going on. As time has passed, we've seen the game almost metamorphosize into a kind of a Dark Souls clone with its control mechanism. You're now looking at pinpointing a singular enemy, and R2 and R1 being your hard and quick attacks. This evolution has continued on into Odyssey and Valhalla. Valhalla is almost like a Rails-driven, non-open world game, with loads of sections cordoned off to you, very campaign-structured missions, and it's just not something I get on with. Odyssey also has taken that combat a little bit too far with the deflect button and parry system. It's all too flashy, doesn't kind of look right, but it's got a very cool loot system against this game. But it all sort of started over here at Origins, those first moves on the controls, and having an almost Destiny-like colour scheme with the loot. One of the major pulls when I first discovered Origins was how cool the weapon system and loot structure was. They all sort of obey it now, but back then it was really cool to have dual swords behave differently, spears have different movesets, and massive axes be like shield breakers and slow-moving tank-style weapons. The armour itself is just one piece on Origins. It's actually split up into a number of pieces on Odyssey, which I do prefer, but it sort of takes that worry away, and it's cool seeing the intact outfits. Some of them are so off the hook. You have like a full-on leopard mask at one point. The badassery is extremely high with the outfits on Origins.
I need someone for one quick job. It's a good coin. No, not you. You keep going. Do not stop here.
I also want to make something else clear. I'm not a diehard Assassin's Creed fan either. I'm not a big fan of what Ubisoft are up to lately, but some of these games really do stand out. Black Flag kind of pulled me back into it all, and this one really reminded me of like 3 and 1, how amazing the stories can be and some of the boss characters. But most of my love for the series falls into its setting and what time period they've chosen, your character, and the different sort of historic people and locations they shove into the storyline. Some of that Da Vinci stuff was absolutely hilarious. This one's a little bit more serious, and you do get to see some architecture that points towards the Greek direction. The timelines do cross over, Cleopatra, Julius Caesar, so if you feel that you're missing that sort of amazing grand Greek architecture, that sort of size and scope of Odyssey, you've got loads of it in here, but you've also got the pyramids, which I'm not showing on this video. They're so colossal, they're gold capped. It's unbelievable looking at them, how they may have been in their initial appearance. Talking of appearances, we've got a little bit of a sandstorm coming in here. The trees and a lot of the in-game furniture does react to the storms and sand. That was also a surprise for me. Another major surprise, and something that's not mentioned in the patch notes, is that the game has completely eradicated its pop-in. When I first reviewed this game in 2018-2017, I actually put it on a best looking PlayStation 4 Pro list. But it scored down majorly because you'd approach objects or you'd look at things or even NPCs and they'd have this horrible rough texture to them. A few seconds would go past and then pop, the game would catch up. There's none of that happening now. It's so goddamn smooth as well on this pan that you constantly just stop and think, this came out in 2017, Horizon Forbidden West, Burning Shores is coming in on a par at some levels with what we're looking at on an open world game. Keeping on the surprises topic, there is some nudity just randomly in here. I don't know if this was a glitch because I haven't seen it since. That might point to the 18 rating, but what a surprise. Okay, let's start talking about the wildlife because this scene was awesome for me. I remembered the crocodiles. I was like, there's something that they do that's really nasty. My brain was like little alarm bells going, just don't bowl into this and attack them. I wanted to see what went down. Sure enough, they smash the boat to pieces and eat you alive. Romance in the Stone style. So that transition to that underwater view and then popping out like that, not a single frame drop. You can tell that it's on a next gen console with the way that it just flipped out, kept going. The crocodiles are still coming. There's no point where you can gloat over your win. It's not all plain sailing though. With some of the campaigns, they have a numeric entry level for their quests, and you have to do compulsory side quests to rank up to get into them, to progress in the game. It's one of the reasons why I'm not showing you the pyramids, because it would require me to rush through a whole bunch of cool side quests, not listen to anything and just smash that skip button and not really enjoy some of that rich content that's everywhere within the side quests and little map discoveries. So it's recommended that you do everything in order and really enjoy that map area before moving on to the next one. Let's talk about traversal, because this is not Black Flag, and Odyssey really heavily leans on big ship combat, not boat combat. Valhalla's gone back a little bit to the original model, but this is kind of the sweet spot for me because you've still got those huge ships that you can jump on and attack and murder people on, but you don't have to worry about all that crew and ship management, Black Flag stuff. I did and didn't like it. It was great to see a huge open ocean that you can have another little mini game on, but I really want to concentrate on third person amazing combat and traversal around buildings, really cool deep lore driven side quests and atmospherics everywhere. I love creeping up on this little village. It's moonlit, the desert just looks perfect. This for me is what the AC series is all about.
They will attack on sight here.
Let's dig a bit deeper on that combat. The early Assassin's Creed games had a sort of wavy, non-focus method of just hard and fast attacking. With this, you've got the focus addition, but more importantly, as you go down that skill tree, you start getting added warrior sort of assets. One of them includes a shield bash, and a build move on R2. So you've also got a lot of combos on the quick followed up by the hard, but then you've also got the opening from the shield bash and a dodge on square. So you've got a lot of options. Odyssey puts it over to a hotkey system where you've got a lot of get out of jail moves like that kick. With this you've really got to get stuck in, and you also get some amazing finisher scenes. The integration of range and the bow, it feels very fluid, and there's enough types to keep you guessing and looking for decent ones. There's one that can fire like a goddamn machine gun, but you also get perks on sniping and headshots. But mixing it up within combat does actually work. It's a bit difficult if you've got an auto aim on, and sometimes in tight spaces you can get in a bit of a twist with that camera and working out who to focus on, but it still never feels like it wasn't fun. Choosing the AI though is ridiculously easy, and you see that sort of Splinter Cell invisible sheen that went over me, or they automatically don't know where I am. You can do that within a couple of meters and just have someone assassin through the cranium within a couple of feet of another one or within their alert sphere. But look at this camera adjust, coming very close to the character, giving weight behind all the moves. The numbers are a bit large, and also going to the special, it turns into like a blinding rage of yellow, and each weapon has a different special sort of rollout. It might be a bunch of different moves, or it might be an assassination through the skull. You are always guessing or looking to try out your new weapon that you've opened up. That also blends into the on-horse or on-camel combat, giving you still the opportunity to focus on someone and different moves depending on if you've got a spear or daggers, and none of it judders, none of it stutters or gets confused. And that's the joy of playing Origins again now on current gen systems, is a lot of this panic it just deals with, and you can keep on top of things, you know where everyone's coming from and who you're clicking on. Very smooth gameplay. Also, none of this would be much fun if the enemies weren't terrifying and didn't rank up properly, and you didn't have like tiered levels, big badass ones. The Breed series has always done that quite well. Again, not given a single chance to gloat over a victory before you're slammed with another dude that you didn't spot. Now, let's talk about location and scenery, where this game takes you what it shows you within the initial open map and the main map screen itself. It takes you to a surprising amount of sophisticated locales, and what I enjoy about the village system or the major key points on the map is that most of them have different traders in. They'll all be worth looking at for different outfits, but it's the map's differences in variety with building structure and all the NPCs doing their little jobs. You might get to a section where everyone is excavating the ground for some sort of mineral, then you'll move over to an area where they're building part of a huge pyramid. Everyone's dressed differently, there's smoke everywhere, and also some quite grand looking ports and river structures, not too dissimilar to modern day Europe. It's pretty phenomenal how far back this game goes and how similar a lot of these structures still look. There's also a certain aspect of camaraderie with the game, getting you involved in some key players within that time period or the story structure, and you all go in, take over an enemy camp. It's pretty cool how it handles friendly NPCs in combat. You'll see some really funny stuff unfold. I don't think a lot of it's intentional. This is a mission at night where I've rescued this prisoner, and one of the guards is still out and about, and the prisoner comes running back, takes over the fight, deals a death blow to him, and then celebrates his accomplishment, promptly leaves. Here's the fire thing. Fire is OP in this game, and I unintentionally start this murderous blaze in the enemy camp. I felt terrible about it. Everyone burns to death. Have a look at the flames themselves. You'll see some slightly cubey effect compared to the rest of the stunning resolution given on the whole entire open world map. That's something that can't be avoided, I think, with the upscale. Something else that can't be avoided are the hippos. Oh man, they're like fleshy tanks of death. And seeing the NPC enemy players trying to deal with them is just no end of fun. And they can run faster than you, so you need to watch out and be ready with your shield. So much good stuff goes on with the hippo fights. They're also quite a valued commodity on the harvesting or farming front for crafting, so you do need to go after quite a lot of dangerous wildlife. Stuff like lions and hyenas are embedded in all of these outskirt areas. It's a lot of fun seeking them out with the bird if you're looking to upgrade a particular piece of inventory. There's also quite a lot of secret little statues and things to do in and around the map that aren't, side quests that can take you off for an hour. You can just hop around and get some cheeky XP from smashing up the village statues. All of that is quite a lot of fun. And being on the back of the horse is fun. Notice it's a horse and not a camel. To buy a horse is extortionate. You can just steal them at no punishment. I wanted to test pop-in, frame rates, hurtling around a busy village. Absolutely nothing bad to report here at all. It's all perfect, all runs beautifully. And this goes for the water. Being in an area that's got a lot of wildlife or reflections in it, can just see the pyramids over there in the distance. What a great incentive to crawl through that map and get to that amazing bunch of structures. You're also so thrown back by how great this game looks everywhere. That synchronization, the camera swing round, and when you rarely get the chance to remember to do it, you're gobsmacked at how far that draw distance goes, how detailed all the trees look, the water's still animated perfectly. This was a game that should have had a lot more fuss made about it on launch, and I think it's got buried a little bit with Odyssey and Valhalla, a bit like that Fallout situation where our last Ubisoft memory isn't that pleasant. The whole time I'm gathering all this footage as well, I'm thinking there's someone out there on an Xbox One playing this at 4K, but I don't think that runs at the 60 frames per second. It must be a quality mode switch out, which reminds me there isn't anything in the options. This is a flat 60 frames per second, no adjustments. I did want to just show you how wrong everything can go if you do attack one of these encampments without properly preparing. Yeah, Burning Tiger got thrown into the mix, and I got javelined on my blind side, insta-killed. It was awesome. One of the other things I wanted to mention is the game isn't dead. On a DLC or sort of continuous content basis, there are ridiculously high ranked missions that it throws in for you on an optional level, and there's this little dude who's a trader who will give you these amazing little missions that take you to a key piece of loot. Wow, you get to find Alpha Hyena. You saw I just one-shot it in the head whilst it was asleep there, so you do get to take advantage of that system. Check this out, I'm just hanging out at the port. Huge structures come in next to you. This has probably got some loot on it somewhere. Go and kill the captain. There's a crocodile in the distance. Anything could go down at this point.
Get out of my way! Not come here!
Do you see how that bloke just leapt out with that massive sword? I was like, this is going to be an easy win. No, nothing can be predicted in this game. What with the wildlife being everywhere and all those different ranked enemies, how well the scaling works also. You're never going to come up to someone that's going to be a complete breeze, and it will always throw a captain at you who's got the parry comeback. Very cool stuff. And just lastly, the weather and the sandstorms and how they come in when you go over to the desert, and how they also move in on some of the missions to create sort of urgency and scary lack of vision. It's very cool to see the animations on your main character cover his face. Everything works, the noise, the way the camel's struggling. It really gives an idea of what this world may have been like back then. Very few Creed games get that level of immersion right. This one is straight down the middle with it, and also including some sort of fantastical scarab meets snake style fantasy bosses as well, mythical creatures in there in places. This has got to be checked out.
Gennadios.
A monster. The Philakitae of Alexandria. He is ravaging the city to find her.
And where is she now?
I have a very powerful friend, Apollodorus. No doubt you have heard of him.
I have not.
I, of course, was Couch Coop, and I'd very much like your feedback if you've got to play this game on an Xbox One with that 4K. If you've only played this on the PlayStation 4 base and you're going to get a 5, wow, keep hold of that disc. The update is pretty big, but it will certainly give you a free boost in the 60 frame per second department. I'll leave you with a small snippet of the trailer, and of course I want to hear about your vote on the next. Still holds up. We've got a few games out there still that I feel need looking at again, Second Son being one of them. And of course, don't forget The Witcher had a free PlayStation 5 official SSD patch. I'll put the link in the description for that. That has changed things up hugely. Oh well, of course.